Okay, so today we're going to go over all the concepts that you need to know for the 4-2 through 4 quiz. So let's go ahead and start with the first couple of questions. First couple of questions says find the exact values of the trig functions by using your unit circle. So you are going to use your unit circle for a good bit of this quiz. You do have your calculator, but your unit circle is going to give us the exact value. So when we see the word exact value, that means no decimals. So no decimals allowed, which means I need to use my unit circle. I'm going to kind of draw a rough unit circle right here. So first one, cosine of 270 degrees. 270 degrees happens right here, and its ordered pair is 0, -1. If I remember that cosine represents x values, I'm just going to pick the x value at 270 degrees. The x value is 0. Next one, cotangent of 7 pi over 4. So 7 pi over 4 is located right here at 315 degrees, and its ordered pair is radical 2 over 2, comma, radical 2 over 2. To find cotangent, I need to find x over y, and that is something you're going to need to memorize for the quiz. You're going to need to remember that tangent is y over x, but cotangent is x over y. So I'm going to take the x value. Sorry, I wrote this wrong. This is negative radical 2 over 2, comma radical 2 over 2. I'm going to take the x value, which is negative radical 2 over 2, and I'm going to divide it by the y value, which is radical 2 over 2. Notice how if I divide the same thing by the same thing, I'm going to get 1, but the same negative thing divided by its same positive thing is going to be a negative. A negative divided by a negative is a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So this is -1 here. Cotangent of 7 pi over 4 is -1. Next one, if we have sine of 300 degrees. So 300 degrees is actually located right here, and its ordered pair is 1/2, comma, radical negative radical 3 over 2. To find the sine, I'm just looking for the y value. So remember sine, that's something you have to memorize. Sine represents y value. So the y value at 300 degrees is going to be negative radical 3 over 2, and that's the answer. For letter D, 3 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4 is going to be located right here at 135 degrees. Its ordered pair is negative radical 2 over 2, comma, radical 2 over 2. To find the tangent, we need to remember that tangent is y over x, and so I'm just going to divide y by x. In this case, y is radical 2 over 2. X is negative radical 2 over 2. And this is just the same as part B here, so that's actually going to end up equaling -1. Next one, the cosecant of 225 degrees. Well, 225 degrees happens right here at 5 pi over 4, and its ordered pair is going to be negative radical 2 over 2, comma, negative radical 2 over 2 on your unit circle. To find the cosecant is equal to r over y. But remember on a unit circle that r is always 1, so I'm looking for 1 over y. In this case, y is negative radical 2 over 2, so I'm just going to find 1 over negative radical 2 over 2. And I am going to ask that you don't have double fractions here, so we're going to keep it, switch it, flip it. This is the same thing as 1 times 2 over negative square root of 2, which is going to be 2 over the negative square root of 2. Traditionally, if you guys were in like an honors class, I would have you rationalize this, but for the sake of this quiz, we can keep the square root in the denominator for now. Secant is the same thing as cosecant, except it's 1 over x. So 1 over x here at 5 pi over 3, well, 5 pi over 3 happens, right? 5 pi over 3, sorry about the pause. 5 pi over 3 is actually the same thing as 300 degrees. It's actually located, let me change my color so we can see we're using it again. It's actually located right here. So 5 pi over 3 is located right here. It has the same ordered pair, 1/2, comma, negative radical 3 over 2. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the x value and I'm going to make it 1 over that. So I'm going to say 1 over the x value, which is 1/2. If I keep it, switch it, flip it, it's 1 times 2 over 1, which is equal to 2. And so the secant of 5 pi over 3 is 2. Last one, the sine of -2 pi. Okay, so -2 pi is not on my unit circle, but I can find it just by rotating. If I rotate, instead of going up like this, instead of going up like this, I'm going to go down because it's a negative angle. I'm going to go down negative 2 pi. Remember, negative 2 pi is an entire rotation around, so we actually end up with the same thing. We end up here, and the ordered pair here is 1, 0. So if my ordered pair here is 1, 0, the sign, remember sign represents y values, this is going to be equal to the sign, which is y at 0 radians, or negative 2 pi radians, which is 0. It's the y value there. All right, let's go ahead and keep on moving. So the next question. I'm trying to think how I can move on to the next question. Give me 1 second. Okay, so for this next question here, it says, find the 6 trig functions if tangent of theta is equal to negative 3/7 with the restriction that sine is less than 0. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture of this on the coordinate grid. I'm going to draw a bow tie shape so I can get a nice image of a triangle. So I want to figure out which triangle should I be in. Well, if sine is less than 0, if I remember all students take calculus, I know that sine is less than 0. It's going to be less than 0 here and here. Everything's positive here, and sine is positive here. So it's not going to be here or here. So I need to narrow it down between these two triangles. To narrow it down, I'm going to also take into account that tangent is negative. So I want to make sure I pick a quadrant where tangent is negative and sine is positive. Well, tangent is positive in the third quadrant, and so I'm going to cross that out. So the triangle I really want to focus on here is going to be a triangle in the fourth quadrant right here. All right, so let's go ahead and label it. I know that tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. So it's equal to opposite over adjacent. So we just need to figure out, is it negative 3/7 or is it 3/-7? And our triangle is actually going to answer this. So if I know that tangent is opposite over adjacent, sorry that switched for us, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my central angle theta, which should always be touching the origin, and I'm going to sketch it out. It says that tangent is equal to opposite. Well, the opposite number has to be 3, regardless of where I'm at. It's got to be 3, and the adjacent has to be 7. Now, looking at the triangle, I can see that 3 went down, and so 3 must be negative, and 7 must be positive. And so what I can see here is that the actual fraction is actually negative 3/7 and not 3/-7. To find the remaining side, I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. I know that 7 squared plus negative 3 squared has got to equal r squared. R squared. Okay, well, let's go ahead and solve this. We get 49 plus 9 is equal to r squared. And so what we're going to end up getting here is 58 is equal to r squared, and we'll take the square root to totally solve. So what we're going to have is the square root of 58 as r. After that, it's pretty easy to find the rest of pretty much everything. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the 6 trig functions. Easiest trig function to find if I know tangent is cotangent. It's cousin, which is its reciprocal. The cotangent of theta has got to be the reciprocal of negative 3/7, which is negative 7/3. Let's go ahead and find sine of theta. Sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So taking a look at my triangle here, starting at theta, opposite is negative 3, and hypotenuse is the square root of 58. And for the sake of this question, we're not going to rationalize the denominator. Let's go ahead and find cosine of theta. Cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And the adjacent here is 7. The hypotenuse is square root of 58. The rest that I need to find are just reciprocals now. So let's find the reciprocal of sine, which is cosecant. Cosecant of theta is just going to be the exact same thing, but flip numerator and denominator. So the square root of 58 over negative 3. And the secant of theta, which is the reciprocal of cosine, is going to be square root of 58 over 7. All right, let's keep on moving. All right, so for the next question, this question is actually a little bit easier here because they're actually telling us where we're going to put our point. It says that the angle theta is, the terminal side of the angle theta is at negative 3, 2. So I'm going to go and sketch that. Negative 3, 2 is right here. If I create a bow tie shape, it's going to show me a triangle that I can make using this information. So the triangle that I want to make is going to be right here at negative 3, 2, which means that my adjacent side, or my x value, is going to be -3. My height is going to be +2, and I'm going to find r by using Pythagorean. So 2 squared plus -3 squared is equal to r squared. 4 plus 9 is equal to r squared. So 13 is equal to r, which means r equals the square root of 13. All right, so let's go ahead and put that on there. All I want to do is find the remaining 6 trig functions. Let's go ahead and find them. Let's find sine of theta, cosine of theta, tangent, the reciprocal of sine, which is cosecant, the reciprocal of cosine, which is secant, and the reciprocal of tangent, which is cotangent. Let's go ahead and find all of these. Sine, we already talked about today. Well, once again, we're going to orient this triangle such that its angle theta is touching the origin. Sine is opposite, which is 2 over hypotenuse, which is radical 13. Cosine is -3 over radical 13. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, which is 2 over -3. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so it is going to be radical 13 over 2. Cosine is the reciprocal of secant, so this is going to be radical 13 over -3. And cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, so this is going to be -3 over 2. So hopefully this question isn't too bad. Let's keep on moving to the next question. All right, the next question, use your calculator to evaluate the following. All right, I'm just going to kind of tell you what you're going to put in your calculator because I cannot put a calculator on the screen currently. To find this, number 1, all of these, so A, B, C, D, you need to be in degree mode. So make sure your calculator is in degree mode. After that, to find cosecant, there is no cosecant button on your calculator, so you're just going to write it as, in your calculator, 1 divided by the reciprocal, sine of 56. For cosine, you can evaluate that the same. Cotangent, its reciprocal is tangent, so that's going to be 1 over the tangent of 65 in your calculator. Cosecant is the same thing as 1 over sine of -137. So the only difference here is this last one, E. This last one, E, does not have a degree symbol, so it is implied to be in radians. So make sure you're in radian mode here. After that, you just need to type in tangent of -4.9, and you should have your solution. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, next question. It says a boat is 60 meters from the base of a cliff. Erica, who is sitting on the boat, notices that the angle of elevation to the top of the cliff is 32 degrees. How high is the cliff? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a picture. So it says that we have some sort of cliff. We'll say this right here is the cliff, and then we have a boat. It says the boat is 600 meters away from the cliff. Erica is looking up at an angle of elevation of 32 degrees. So remember your eyeball. She looks up from staring off through the horizon at 32. The question is, what's the height? I'm just going to set this one up for us. To find the height here, I want to know the opposite, and I know the adjacent. So tangent is the best thing to set up. I'm going to say tangent of 32 degrees is equal to opposite, which is h, over adjacent, which is 600. Once again, make sure your mode is in degrees for this one. All right, next one. A ladder is leaning against a wall. Okay, I can do that. A ladder is leaning against a wall like this. And it says it makes an angle of 74 degrees with the ground. So the ladder is making an angle of, well, that's pretty steep. The ladder is making an angle of 74 degrees with the ground. If the foot of the ladder is 6 feet from the wall, so 6.5 is right here. It says how high is the wall? How high on the wall is the ladder? So we want to know this. This angle here is super steep, so I probably should have drawn it a little different, but we have 74 degrees here. This sets up the exact same. I know angle 74, I want to know height, so this is going to be tangent of 74 is equal to height over 6.5. Number 4, it says an airplane climbs at an angle of 11 degrees with the ground. Okay, so say we have an airplane and it takes off. It takes off from the ground at 11 degrees. I did not write 11, so let's make sure that's 11. At 11 degrees from the ground. Find the ground distance it has traveled when it has attained an altitude of 400 feet. So once it gets to 400 feet, we want to know how much distance did it cover. Well, the best way to do this is right now, once again, I have an opposite and I have an adjacent. So I'm going to set up tangent of 11 degrees is equal to 400 over x and solve from there. So that one's pretty much the same. All right, let's go ahead and let's move on to the next one. All right, so for this last one here, it says Isabella is making a hung flag for her country, the Republic of, don't know how to say that, on a canvas 20 by 10 meters long. To do that, she has to draw a diagonal that begins at the bottom left corner and ends at the right side of the flag at a height of 7 meters. So the picture is given. It basically says, what is the angle of elevation in degrees of the diagonal? So this question's a little different. We've so far only been solving for side lengths. Now we want to solve for an angle. So using this triangle here, we basically want to solve for this angle theta. Well, given what we know opposite and we know adjacent. So we're going to set up tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. In order to solve this, I need to get theta by itself. Just like a square root undoes a square, the inverse tangent undoes tangent. So I'm going to take the inverse tangent on both sides. What I'm going to end up getting is tangent of theta is equal to inverse tangent of 7 over 20, which you can evaluate in your calculator by pressing second tangent, and that will give you inverse tangent. All right, so those are all of the questions that you should be responsible for knowing for the quiz over sections 4.2 through 4.4. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I would love to give you some more help. Awesome, and I hope that you have a lovely, I don't know if you're reading this on the weekend or what, but hope you have a good day.